I waited until I thought the coast was really clear. Then one Sunday, without telling anyone, I got up hours before dawn and took off for the woods. The weather was still warm enough that I didn't need a jacket. I packed a bag filled with special food, cold chicken and cheese, bakery bread and oranges. Down at my old house, I put on my hunting boots. As usual, the fence was not charged, and it was simple to slip into the woods and retrieve my bow and arrow. I went to our place, Gail's and mine, where we shared breakfast the morning of the reaping that sent me into the games. I waited at least 2 hours. I'd begun to think that he'd given up on me in the weeks that had passed, or that he no longer cared about me, hated me even. And the idea of losing him forever, my best friend, the only person I'd ever trusted with my secrets, was so painful I couldn't stand it. Not on top of everything else that had happened. I could feel my eyes tearing up, my throat starting to close the way it does when I get upset. And then I looked up, and there he was, 10 feet away, just watching me. Without even thinking, I jumped up and threw my arms around him, making some weird sound that combined laughing, choking, and crying. He was holding me so tightly that I couldn't see his face. But it was a really long time before he'd let me go. And then he didn't have much choice, because I'd gotten this unbelievably loud case of hiccups and had to get a drink of water. We did what we always did that day. Ate breakfast, hunted, fished, and gathered. Talked about people in town, but not about us. His new life in the mines, my time in the arena, just about other things. By the time we were at the hole in the fence that was nearest the hob, I think I really believed that things could be the same, that we could go on as we always had. I'd given all the game to Gail to trade since we had so much food now. I told him I'd skip the hob, even though I was looking forward to going there, because my mother and sister didn't even know that I was gone, hunting, and they were probably wondering where I was. And then suddenly, as I was suggesting that I take over the daily snare run, he took my face in his hands and he kissed me. I was so completely unaware. You would think that after all the hours I'd spent with Gail, watching him talk and laugh and frown, I would know all there was to know about his lips. I hadn't imagined how warm they would feel pressed against my own, or how those hands, which could set the most intricate snares, could easily entrap me. I think I made some sort of noise in the back of my throat, and I vaguely remember my fingers curled close tightly, resting against his chest. Then he let go and said, I had to do that, at least once. And he was gone. Despite the fact that the sun was setting and my family would be worried, I sat there by the tree, next to the fence. I tried to decide how I felt about that kiss, if I'd liked it or resented it. But all I remember was the pressure of Gail's lips, the scent of orange that still lingered on his skin. It was pointless to compare the many kisses I exchanged with Peta. I still hadn't figured out if any of those counted. Finally, I went home. That week I managed the snares and dropped off the meat to Hazel. I didn't see Gail until Sunday. I had this whole speech worked out about how he didn't want a boyfriend, I never planned on marrying, but I didn't end up using it. Gail acted as if the kiss had never happened. Maybe he was waiting for me to say something or kiss him back. Instead, I just pretended it never happened. But it had. Gail had shattered some invisible barrier between us, and with it, any hope I had of resuming our old, uncomplicated friendship. Whatever I pretended, I could never look at his lips in quite the same way. This all flashes through my head in an instant as President Snow's eyes bore into mine on the heels of his threat to kill Gail. How stupid I've been to think that the Capitol will just ignore me once I returned home. Maybe I didn't know about potential uprisings, but I knew they were angry with me. Instead of acting with extreme caution the situation called for, what did I do? From the president's point of view, I ignored PETA and flaunted my preference for Gail's company before the whole district. And by doing it, made it clear I was, in fact, mocking the Capitol. Now I'd endangered Gail and his family, and my family, and PETA too, by my carelessness. Please don't hurt Gail, I whisper. He's just my friend. He's been my friend for years. That's all between us. Besides, everybody thinks we're cousins now. I'm only interested in how it affects your dynamic with PETA, thereby affecting the mood in the districts, he says. It will be the same on the tour. I'll be in love with him just as I was, I say. Just as you are, corrects President Snow. Just as I am, I confirm. Only you'll have to do even better if the uprisings are to be averted, he says. This tour will be your only chance to turn things around. I know, I will. I'll convince everyone in the districts that I wasn't defying the Capitol, that I was crazy in love, I say. President Snow rises, dabs his puffy lips with a napkin. Aim higher, in case you fall short. What do you mean? How can I aim higher? I ask. Convince me, he says. He drops the napkin and retrieves his book. I don't watch him as he heads for the door, so I flinch when he whispers in my ear. By the way, I know about the kiss. Then the door clicks shut behind him.